I'm sure you've already been aware that a horrific tragedy has happened in America recently involving the political commentator known as Charlie Kirk. Like many of you, I was devastated by what happened, and I was truly hoping that he would pull himself through all of this. I know that I'm not necessarily a political channel, although I do sort of combine that with video games quite often, and unfortunately these days, it's become ever increasingly clear that the mixture of politics and games media has become synonymous with one another, thanks to the many activist types that rot out the husks of these westernized studios. So I wasn't originally going to talk about any of this because, again, I'm not a political channel, but unfortunately people who make games in this industry have decided to now show their true colors, and it's frankly disgusting. So I want to talk about this and more, so please, let me just speak here for a moment. Gameplay footage wise on screen, nothing really works here, so just let me put stuff on screen. Just let me talk, all right? Just let me talk. Firstly, I want to talk about the big one, which is Ghost of Yotei. This game comes out in less than a month. It's a game from Sucker Punch that decided to pivot the franchise to a female character that is being portrayed by a crazy activist already, as we all know. Then Grums was informed that someone named Drew, who works at Sucker Punch on Ghost of Yotei, was celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk. The post said this: "I hope the shooter's name is Mario so that Luigi knows his bro has his back." But then as you can see below that, they have also retweeted saying that Charlie Kirk was transphobic and racist as well. They then decided to say more, which we can read from the bottom here to the top. "I have been told that the Twitter has noticed me from across the room. Maybe instead of emailing people's employers, y'all should be emailing your reps and demand gun control immediately. You do realize that the person who ended Charlie was literally a trained assassin, right? Info has come out on the gun that was used and everything. This was not just some random person. It was a professional hit. I don't think gun control is going to matter to someone who likely has military experience and is likely being funded behind the scenes to take out political targets. What you should be asking yourself, Drew Harrison of Sucker Punch, is why you felt the need to even comment on this in the first place. You're a game developer. You have no reason to open your mouth about things that you have no business with. You make video games. You're not running for office or standing in the open, debating those who hate you openly like Charlie did so bravely many times. You would never do what he did because you're too afraid to. Instead, you'll just sit in your office and think that you're somehow holier than thou. And the added insult to injury is that your actions and opinions are not just reflective of you as a person, but your words will speak for the rest of Sucker Punch as well, because by employing you there, what your words tell us is that Sucker Punch is fine and also just allows such rhetoric to be said openly like this. I said this on Twitter. But this is enough for me to never want to buy Yotei at all. I don't want to give my money to people who celebrate when other people are ended like this just because they disagree with them politically. And I know that by me giving my money to Sucker Punch on this, that I'm telling Sucker Punch that I agree with them and that I want their developers who are so clearly lost in the ideological nonsense that I somehow want more of what they have to say. No, I'm tired of it. I'm so sick of these people saying these things so openly without any repercussions being had. Sucker Punch is quite literally employing people who not only celebrate death, but also advocate for further action as well. And before someone says that I'm doxing, no, this is not doxing. This is a professional working in a company that has their name publicly in credits on commercially viable products. I am not wanting any harm or something done to this Drew person like that. I am simply showing you that Sucker Punch is employing people who celebrate and laugh at the death of others simply due to their politics. And I also think that it's disgusting that PlayStation as well pays the salaries of people like this. I will not be buying Ghost of Yotei because of this Drew individual. I don't want to give my money to companies that hire and protect people who are clearly advocating for more political violence and assassinations against those that they dislike. Yeah, the first straw broke was Erika Ishii being the main character in that game, who I can only guess is probably also laughing about Charlie Kirk dying too. I like Sucker Punch games before. I've bought plenty of their other games well before they were infested with this rot virus. But it's become very clear that this company has made it, very obvious that they are totally fine with employing actually horrible human beings like this. And this is a terrible look for your game where your studio has so much riding on its success as well. So shame on Sucker Punch for this. And I'm disgusted by the words of your employee. You also had Legacy Killer HD, another YouTuber, who went onto Blue Sky and also found quite a few developers from other game studios also liking posts where Charlie Kirk was reported dead as well. For example, is seen here. Someone named Lee Cash, who works at the Coalition, that's the Microsoft Gears of War studio, is also celebrating Charlie Kirk dying as well. We also have Kelly Snyder, a senior producer on, yet again, Ghost of Yote, also liking posts about Kirk's death. So you can add that to the other Yote dev pile for another reason to never buy that game now. We also have as seen here someone named Dennis, who does special effects at Bungie. They do Destiny and Marathon as well, in case you don't know, but they're also liking that Charlie Kirk has died. And people like this Zib, I'm assuming that's not the real name, but anyway, at the bottom here, they work at Magic the Gathering as well. Like I said, it's a lot of Western studio slop that are very happy that a conservative political commentator has died like this. They want more of this, and they think it's funny. And I now regret buying Gears Reloaded knowing that this lead person probably worked on it. And this has also tainted my enjoyment of the infamous franchise or Sly Cooper and more, knowing that these people at Sucker Punch are being employed and protected by their studio heads that say things like this. I really do think that a boycott will happen for future games because of things like this. And it's really not wrong of me to say that you should not give money to people who clearly hate you like this. But I will say that these studios employing people like this is making it increasingly easier to save my money, that's for sure. And what I've also noticed is the only people celebrating this death are those of one single political side, yet they will cry and call for censorship against you if you speak out against them, which is quite ironic. I think this user which retweeted Legacy Killer HD's tweet about it said it best. These people high-fiving over a man being assassinated are the same ones that demand mass bannings from games for toxic behavior. And exactly this, these are the same types who would want you silenced, banned, and their co-workers fired if they spoke out against their ideological beliefs. It's become very clear that the Western games industry has normalized actual radical liberal beliefs to such a level that they believe themselves to be untouchable. And while I will never condone violence against others, I do think it's morally right to boycott and not buy products made by people who would celebrate your death as well, like this has happened now. But what scares me also is just how dehumanizing these developers have proven themselves to be. They have become so apathetic to other human beings that they will cheer and applaud the deaths of those that they hate because they've told that they have to hate them. I know you'll hear people say we must separate the art from the artist, but in this case, I really don't think that's the case anymore. It's become clear that it's impossible to do that when it comes to games or anything else. I don't want to support people who likely would also laugh or cheer if I was dead as well. I think these people are very mentally unwell. And what they really don't realize is that they too are a single mistake away themselves from being thrown to the wolves as well. If any of these developers disagreed or had second thoughts against their cult hive mind-like beliefs, their so-called friends and coworkers would immediately throw them to the wolves without a second thought, and they know that. That's the real tragedy here. And that's the real tragedy here, which is that these developers who advocate for violence against anyone who doesn't think like they are not among friends, even if they think they are. Because this is what cults are. They're extremists. They need their beliefs to be 100% accepted, or they lash out at anyone, even people around them. So if that Drew Harrison of Sucker Punch one day said that they didn't agree with something that was even remotely light-leaning, Sucker Punch's own devs would probably advocate for the studio to fire them, and they know that. I mean, how can you reasonably work somewhere knowing that you're all on tight ropes, hoping that no one starts burning your rope over someone else's like this? You are all so deep in your ideologies that you've become unaware of how much of a problem you're in until it's usually too late. And like I said, the dehumanization of Charlie Kirk from these developers and many more that I'll show is just deplorable. I don't want to support games made by people who advocate for political assassinations. I don't really care who that offends, even if it can somehow, but it has to be said that way. Politics have ruined everything, and with what's happened recently, it's become clear that the Western industry is definitely compromised by hundreds, if not thousands of developers who also think this way. But I guarantee you, because I've spoken to many developers myself, that a lot of these people just agree with the crazy ones at their places to keep their jobs. But we both know that if any developer at these studios spoke up in defense of Charlie Kirk, they would be fired, and that's kind of insane, but it's true. It really doesn't surprise me that someone from Bungie either would be happy that someone they hate is dead. I mean, Bungie has fallen long ago already, but they have bigger problems because their player base is dwindling fast and Marathon looks like a bust already. But I guess when you hire a bunch of people who care more about being political activists over game developers first, you get what you pay for. And like I said, there are unfortunately more. We have Kate here, who is a translator for Square Enix. which breaks my heart, but this person works on Final Fantasy XIV specifically, and this Kate person retweeted this. Anyway, the choice America faces going forward is live in the Confederacy or do Reconstruction for real and purge those mother effers from all of public life. And there really isn't an in-between. So Kate, by retweeting this, is advocating for anyone that she disagrees with politically to be literally purged from the earth itself because they don't agree with her politics. How can Square Enix be okay with someone like this working for them? Look, I love Square Enix and their games. It's mostly their Western side that is definitely the problem. But I also know that there are good people who work there because I've talked to them before privately myself. But this Kate person is clearly deranged. This is objectively even worse. They just want you gone at this point. How is that okay? Blue Sky is also apparently silencing people who do speak on Charlie Kirk, which means in a funny twist that the website that is ran by activists is being silenced by their own, which again proves what I've said before, which is that these types don't actually think of each other as real friends. They're just burning each other's ropes to save themselves. But Kate of Square Enix would then say this. I mean, I don't know. I do think we should be planning a mass exodus of this site. They mean Blue Sky. Earlier on, you could kind of give the benefit of the doubt in some cases, due to moderation being inherently challenging, but they've made it pretty clear they're intentionally aligning with the boot at this point. No, Kate, they're not aligning with the boot. Again, you're just using rhetoric that clearly shows your own bias. You instead think anyone who doesn't think like you is a Yahtzee monster. That's so evidently clear now. Actually, her response to Blue Sky suppressing Kirk talk and calls for political violence really tells you everything you need to know. That Kate has a problem with this because she just wants more of it, which is kind of messed up. She wants to be able to comfortably call for the death of those that she disagrees with more. Again, this person works on Final Fantasy XIV as a translator. How is this okay? This Kate is also responsible for characters like Wook Lamont, which is highly regarded to be the worst character in Final Fantasy XIV's history. The character is voiced by a transgender voice actor, and when the audience of 14 vocally stated that they thought that Wook Lamont is a bad character, and then that led to 14 losing hundreds of thousands of players due to Dawntrail being not what they wanted, how did Kate respond? Well, she said this. The hardest thing is if there's a character I really like and then people say this character sucks, I'm like, no, you're wrong. How can you reason with people like this anymore? They're pushing ideology into Japanese games and then getting mad when the player-based mass exodus is out of the game that they're working on because they're pushing their own ideology into it. So if the pink hair didn't give it away already, it's clearly based on what this Kate has said or retweeted that this woman wants more political violence. She wants more Charlie Kirks to happen. As if 14 had enough problems to deal with, they have this now, unfortunately, too. And it's all terrible, but it keeps going. I also do want to bring a comic book writer into this fold too. Gretchen Felker Martin, who worked on the new Red Book comic book series, that's this book right here on screen for you, said this on social media that Charlie Kirk was a Yahtzee and other words I can't say. And as you can see at the bottom there, Gretchen shows thoughts and prayers for the bullet that struck Kirk, not Kirk himself. And I said worked on because it's seen here within hours of this Gretchen person, which is a terrible name, by the way, just sounds disgusting, honestly. Their Red Hood book was canceled by DC Comics effectively immediately due to their comments on Kirk's death, and good on DC for doing this actually. This Red Hood book just released its first chapter, by the way, and it debuted recently too, and now DC has confirmed not only have they pulled the book and severed all ties, but they have also refunded anyone who bought the book and have canceled future shipments of comics related to this Gretchen person too that were already done. As DC said here in a statement, at DC Comics we place the highest value on our creators and community and affirm the right to peaceful individual expression of personal viewpoints. Posts or public comments that can be viewed as promoting hostility or violence are inconsistent with DC's standards of conduct, and this is exactly how it should be done. Fast, precise, and that's it. There should be zero room for anyone to advocate for political violence or death, no matter the medium. These sorts of radicals need to be removed because they are using their platforms to quite literally advocate for more violence by weaponizing their fan base. The same way those Ghost of Yote, Coalition, and Bungie devs are doing, this really cannot stand. Because by employing people who push this hateful rhetoric and wanting more violence, these companies like Sony, PlayStation, and more, just like with Square Enix and that K-Translator person, by keeping these people employed at your companies, you are telling the world that you are perfectly fine with harboring and allowing such extremist views to exist within your companies like this. This is no longer just a left versus right problem. This is a total rejection of everything related to extremism. I don't think any side can agree that what happened is morally right because it was wrong. And frankly, if you believe ending people you disagree with is morally right, then to me, you have clearly crossed the line. You're no longer sane enough to function in a society anymore. There was even a YouTuber named Dark Viper who does Grand Theft Auto content that is happy that Kirk is dead. Here's what he said via social media. Every positive post about Charlie Kirk is either ignorance of who he was or support of who he was, and it's scary I can't tell which. Among endless things, he was a proponent of the Great Replacement Theory, the racist idea that immigration is a plot to replace white people. Dark Viper continues, Matt, I can't believe you, a guy in love with a Latina, didn't like one of the most hate-filled bigots of all time. Are you crazy? He built his career on inspiring hate. I didn't say he deserved to die. I said it's morally ironic he reaped what he sowed. Except he didn't. You're lying, Viper. Kirk was one of the only people actually trying to bridge a gap between the political sides by putting himself out there, by talking to people every single day. Don't believe me? Fine. Here's a clip of Charlie saying this while talking to someone that clearly hates him. Watch.
I got a question.
Sure. What was your name again? I'm sorry.
I don't think I told you. My name's Mercury.
Nice to meet you.
Why are you here?
Okay, I've been asked that question a lot. First of all, that question should not even have to be asked, but when people stop talking, really bad stuff starts. When marriages stop talking, divorce happens. When civilizations stop talking, civil war ensues. When you stop having a human connection with someone you disagree with, it becomes a lot easier to want to commit violence against that group. What we as a culture have to get back to is being able to have reasonable disagreement where violence is not an option.
You think that's not emotional violence?
How is this? What is emotional violence, by the way? I don't know what that is.
It is harm intentionally perpetrated on another human being that is intentionally targeted at their emotional well-being.
Okay, so feelings mean nothing to me. Isn't why we had the First Amendment to try to push our boundaries and to hear things that might make you mildly uncomfortable?
This doesn't make me mildly uncomfortable.
Does it make you very uncomfortable?
It makes me angry.
As you just saw, Charlie Kirk said the entire reason for what he does was simple. It was to have a conversation, to bridge that gap between extremist sides. He wasn't asking the people on the left, like that person in the video I just showed you, to end themselves or something. No, he simply wanted to have a conversation. And like Kirk said, when discussions end between nations, that's when war begins. That's when violence happens. Because there is no human connection anymore when people stop talking to one another, even if it's uncomfortable to do so. And like he said, when people stop talking, they end up dying. And that's what happened. What it proved was that the left, the radical left, I should say, clearly wasn't willing to have a conversation with someone like Charlie Kirk anymore. They were instead resorting to violence because they couldn't debate him. They didn't want to hear his reasonings because when he spoke, he was actually changing people's minds, and they didn't like that. It didn't mean that he was bringing them to the right. He was just bringing people more to a center viewpoint, a reset, if you will. And that proved that these sorts of people, like that Mercury individual in the video with Kirk that you just saw, that what Charlie was doing by sitting there and willing to have a conversation, that made them angry. It made them angry that someone was just willing to sit down and just talk to people about things. Just marinate in that for a second. They wanted him dead because he was willing to talk to people about the world, and then they ended him for that. If that doesn't spark something in you that there's definitely something wrong with the way this world is going, I don't think nothing will. And that's really why I'm making this video, why I'm bringing up all of these game developers that are celebrating the death of this young man. I mean, for God's sakes, he's even younger than I am, and now he's gone. I mean, these developers from Yote to Gears, Final Fantasy XIV, and more, what they have confirmed with their words and by reposting and their actions is that they are unwilling to have that conversation with any of us anymore. They really don't want to bridge the gap. They'd rather burn you down and have you be gone, and they will laugh at it as it happens. And how can we as reasonable human beings rationalize the absolute absurdity and cult-like behavior of these people who were not only employed at these AAA gaming studios that make these games, but support them knowing that deep down they want you to just eat the slop and shut your mouths for the rest of time? I can't do that. We shouldn't do that. This is morally wrong from beginning to end for someone like me. I can't play Yote now knowing that these people who worked on that game would laugh if any one of us died as well. I can't morally play Final Fantasy XIV knowing that this Kate person wants more political violence, that she wants anyone who disagrees with her to just be buried 6 feet deep. How can you reason with an enemy when they are unwilling to see reason anymore? It just makes me worried about the future. Also, if I sound different here, I'm sorry. I'm re-recording this part after already having done the video, so I left my video to upload thinking it was all done, and I went outside, and then Grums informs me that, well, what happened has officially happened. So let's add this now to the video again so that I can upload it again. Joy. Anyway. So it turns out that Ghost of Yote dev Drew Harrison, who celebrated Charlie Kirk's death, has been officially fired from Sucker Punch. As seen here, Drew said, "If standing up against fascism is what cost me my dream job I held for 10 years, I would do it again 100 times stronger." So it is confirmed that this Drew individual has lost their job for their comments, and good on Sucker Punch for doing this. Although that other person, the Snyder lady who liked the post of Charlie dying, is still there too. It is funny that for a group that advocated for cancel culture against conservatives so badly over all of these years, that they are now mad that they are truly reaping what they sowed. But I just wanted to add that update here because I know that some people will say, oh, why didn't you update it? So I did it, and I'm going to re-upload this whole video again. It's like 55 gigabytes, man. Trust me, that's a lot for YouTube, or for me anyways. But now back to the original video. Thank you for understanding. It also makes me wonder if more violence will happen on all sides. I mean, what will happen if someone who's conservative maybe decides to target a liberal speaker next? What would that accomplish? It would only embolden and make that side even more radical. The content they would make would even become even more vitriolic. The games of these devs that they would work on would simply become bludgeoning tools to attack ideologies and radicalize people that they've been conditioned to not accept things no matter what they're told. This cycle of violence would just continue, and I don't reasonably see it stopping any soon. And as I say in any video of mine when I talk about people, no matter how big or small they are, you should never harass people. You should never attack them or find them in public or dox them or anything like that. Because while it may seem useless now to some with how they feel right now, it's important to remember that you have to be better than they are. You have to not stoop down to the levels, you have to not advocate for more violence, and you have to not become the very thing that you are pushing back against. And what these developers have proven by speaking out is that they are beneath you. They are willing to use scummy tactics to advocate for further violence, and that their positions at these companies or studios proves that they are radicals and they think that they're untouchable. I'm not saying that all of Sucker Punch or Square Enix is radical. I know they're not. I know people at Square Enix. There are good people there who are normal. But they do need to realize by allowing these individuals to poison the well at your studios or your companies, it will only make all of you as a collective whole the worse for it. What DC Comics did with that Red Hood writer was good because DC saw the writing on the wall. They knew that if they protected that Gretchen writer, God, that name sucks, that they would have a political firestorm on their backs. That really wouldn't be worth whatever revenue they would have generated from that single book. And then Savvy, a friend of the channel, has unfortunately found even more developers that are advocating for violence. It's just so tiring, but here's what she found. Bruce Napick works at Epic Games and in Trust and Safety, ironically, and here is Bruce saying that silence speaks volumes when Chris Pratt, a Hollywood actor, condemned the death of Charlie Kirk and said that it was terrible that it even happened. And here's Bruce retweeting how right-wing media apparently stokes hatred and fear. And here's Bruce saying that anyone who advocates for ICE is a bigot pretty much. Again, giving money to Fortnite is helping this guy pay his bills. It's horrible to see Epic employing people like this. Here's also Andrew Staley, who also works on Fortnite, saying this too. There aren't many people in this world whose death would make me smile. This is one of them. What a perfect time to be at a bourbon festival. He also said, just made it to the hotel in Louisville for the festival, just hearing about Kirk now, gonna party even effing harder now. Here's more of this Andrew Staley of Epic Games retweeting plenty of things about how Kirk was a bigot and a horrible person. This guy is happy that someone he dislikes has died due to political violence. And as you can see, it's very clearly only one side of the political spectrum in video games that are celebrating that a man is dead and that his kids are now without their father forever now. They're genuinely laughing about this and celebrating and drinking alcohol and partying, knowing that someone they disagree with politically is gone now. And our money, by supporting these game franchises, is keeping these sorts of people employed. And it's just morally wrong to support these companies at this point. It just is. I'm disgusted by Epic Games employing some hateful and awful people like this. But what happens next will be even more important, which is whether these companies will hold their employees to the same moral standards as they would if their employees were also ousted as conservatives. Game developers and more have been fired for simply agreeing with conservative values in the past. Look how people reacted when the creator of Five Nights at Freddy's was ousted as a conservative. He didn't even do anything. He's just a conservative, and they still wanted him dead. So if these companies protect these people or say that they're somehow allowed to voice their opinions this way with political violence, then you have your answer, which is that places like Bungie, Coalition, Sucker Punch, Epic, and more are allowing their developers to publicly laugh and celebrate the violence that is tearing America apart and more some. I am more saddened than I am angry at this time. I don't want more death. I don't want more divide. If you've been watching my content, especially what I've been making this year, the vast majority of it has been about the industry, about high game prices, about censorship, things like that. I've tried to keep myself more clear of the so-called culture war because I thought maybe we as a community could maybe move past that. But unfortunately now it seems while I would like to leave that culture war behind, it's very clear that war is not leaving us behind, and that saddens me greatly. And the people retweeting and pushing rhetoric to shoot conservatives, to end anyone they disagree with, the death of Charlie Kirk was done in large part by those who push these hateful messages into the ether. And I'm shocked, and frankly, sleep has even been hard to accomplish thanks to these events for me. I already know inevitably that more will happen, and I'll probably have to do a follow-up video, but for now, I think this is a good spot to end it. But before I leave, please do not give in to hate, do not become the very things that wish you dead, We need to be better than this, and we need to show that any community, no matter how divided, must come together to stop these things before they become worse. Video games, comics, entertainment should be about escapism, about nerdy, fun things. But it's very clear that there's a pact of people who just want to use it to hurt others, and that cannot stand. I thank you for watching. Please be good to yourselves and those around you, and do not give in to hate. Because if you do, you're doing exactly what these types want you to do. So don't let them win. You're all better than that. I know it. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.